Good afternoon and welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange, Leadership Tools and Strategies. I want to welcome you in on this wonderful day. We have a fantastic program set up with Isaac Tolpin of Choose Growth. So thrilled that you could join us and happy to have you alongside us on this learning journey. Isaac is from Choose Growth, and we're going to learn a little bit more today about what it looks like to be in an e-learning environment. I'm Todd Greer, Executive Director of SynerVision Leadership Foundation, and thrilled as always to have you alongside us on this journey. Before we go any further, I want to remind you about some very exciting and important things when it comes to the SynerVision Leadership Foundation. We want to announce March 2nd is going to be the launch of the third issue of Nonprofit Performance Magazine. It's going to be focused on millennials in the nonprofit world, and our guest today, Isaac Tolpin, is one of our contributors in that exciting magazine as we think about the changes a nonprofit organization has to make in order to engage a millennially focused world. Really excited about that, excited about the opportunities that will be heading for us here in just a month as that comes to launch. Also, reminder that this Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, you can follow an amazing conversation, #NonprofitChat. What we'll be doing is extending today's conversation a little bit further so we can engage deeper into the areas of e-learning in our nonprofit organizations. Again, welcoming in Isaac Tolpin. Isaac, thank you so much for being alongside us today.
Oh, absolutely. It's great to be here, Todd.
We are thrilled to have you. Isaac is one of those experts that surrounds us in this nonprofit sphere. He's a guy who understands a unique aspect to the nonprofit world that many of us take for granted or forget about altogether. So Isaac, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh, thanks, Todd. Yeah, just a moment. You know, I'm an entrepreneur, co-founder of two companies that are causing a positive disruption, as I would say, in the e-learning industry, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. So just really enjoying that. I'm a family man. I've got 6 amazing children. My wife, Angie Tolpin, author and speaker, and just busy living life and serving and leading and raising my kids.
That's fantastic. Isaac, as I've got to know you over the last couple of months, I've been thrilled to see the character that you have, and I think it's an exciting thing for our audience to be able to get to know you a little bit deeper today. Folks, want to illustrate here real quickly. Isaac is a real deal professional here when it comes to the e-learning environment. You can see he's in that awesome soundproof soundstage there. We were thrilled to have him in there. We were talking earlier today about the environment, and I said I think it shows very well that at Choose Growth they're very serious about their work. So thanks for even coming fully prepared in that room there, Isaac.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit more. Choose Growth. What kinds of work do you guys do, and really, how did the company start about?
Yeah, so you know, I've been an entrepreneur prior to Choose Growth, and my business partner Chris Benke as well, and very successful in what we were doing. And we saw 2 things. We saw organizations and brilliant experts that weren't participating in e-learning, and then we saw this industry exploding. But frankly, I mean, it's a $50 billion industry. It's going to $100 billion in the next few years, and frankly, most of it's boring. Most of it doesn't touch millennials at all, if anybody. They're doing it because they have to in organizations, and most people aren't finishing it. And so Choose Growth was built to solve that problem. We are killing boring in e-learning, if you will. We are having fun, creating experiences with great information, yes, but that people actually love to consume. And that's a big difference. And you know what, today, people have choices, and I call it a curated world, and they have choices. They're going to tune out commercials, they're going to tune this out, tune this in, and if you're not delivering well and the whole experience isn't there, they're not going to consume it.
That's a great point, Isaac. I think you're hitting the nail on the head, and I think many of our people, as they're watching from their office, watching from home, they're probably nodding their head along with you in the sense that they're seeing this challenge in their workplace. It's funny almost to me. Look, I'm surrounded by books. I'm a guy who I pride myself in being a lifelong learner. I love what opportunities we have through the internet to be able to continue and grow our learning experience. But I think for many people who have grown up, particularly in the millennial generation, there's a lot of struggles that come into this idea of learning. Now, here we are today, and we're talking about learning, and particularly e-learning for the nonprofit, the religious, the charity, the educational institution, and organization. We've got some challenges there. Why is it so important for them, Isaac? Why is e-learning as a whole just so imperative?
Well, because, I mean, everything's changing. Access to information is there. No longer do organizations want to spend money getting together as much, even though getting together sometimes is even better, obviously. But, there's really a focus on, how do we equip people? How do we train people? How do we engage people to do things that are in alignment with the organization's goals? And there's no better way to do that than to leverage through technology to really do that in an effective way. And now what's great about technology is now that information can scale the globe. So it's super valuable.
That's fantastic. And when we talk about e-learning, if somebody's out there and they're saying, okay, this nebulous term, what exactly is e-learning, and what can it be? Because ultimately it could mean probably a lot of different things to different people. From your experience, what does e-learning look like for an organization? What different types of initiatives might it be?
No, that's great, and I want to get out of your mind, anybody listening, of what maybe they've experienced before, because what I'm really talking about is the next level of e-learning. We decided not to use a new word because everybody kind of knows that word, and that's the industry name, but really we're not doing what has been done out there for the most part. You can look at Coursera, for example. They're doing a great job. I mean, they got millions of people learning. But frankly, when it comes down to it, a lot of it is talking head professors in lecture halls now in an e-learning environment. And that's not what I'm talking about, because I think you need to humanize e-learning, to take the title of the book behind you. It needs to be the kind of the kind of experience where we're learning and we can contribute to the learning. We can actually be part of it. And this touches millennials more than anybody. And if you want to resonate with everybody, you've got to focus on what the millennials care about. Well, frankly, they're going to take over 75% of the workforce in the coming years. So it's incredibly important. But what we've noticed with online education is that really all the generations are starting to care about the same things. We want to interact with what we're learning. We don't want long videos. And so you've got to have videos that are about 4 or 5 minutes or less. You've got to have, get rewarded for things. So, for example, it's kind of like the second grade. I may hate to say this, but in the second grade, we got gold stars from our teachers. And when you're by yourself and all you have is your computer and there's all kinds of distractions that could come about through your mobile device or whatever, when you get recognized, that actually releases endorphins in people, even if it's just you got a badge for achieving something or a progress bar moved forward or something like that, to go, hey, I can go back there for 5 or 10 minutes and learn something. It's going to remember exactly where I'm at. I'm going to get recognized for that. I make progress in my course, and I can see where I'm at, and I can do an online journal. I can, I can do a multiple choice question to kind of test my knowledge just for my own sake and see what I'm grasping. I can see these visual experiences that are great. Let's face it, a lot of e-learning just looks bad. And I read an article in the HBR a while back where there's a big problem in organizations where the tools that people are being asked to use in organizations are so far inferior to the tools that we're using in our personal everyday lives. And we have Apple to thank for that, and all kinds of companies. Our iPhone is way better to use than most of the things we're using in work or in organizations. And so when it comes to learning and you want to keep people's attention inside a computer screen or on a mobile device, it's got to be beautiful. It's got to be simple. It's got to be intuitive. It's got to be easy to use. It's got to be an environment where people actually want to be.
That's a great point, Isaac. And I think one of the challenges that we deal with is we want as consumers to be able to control our processes. We want to be able to co-create, and we want to feel like we have control. I think one of the struggles that we see as a detachment has long been the history of organizations trying to control the learning of their organizational members. How do you guys deal with that?
Yeah, I think that that's an interesting word, control, and it's a word that millennials will hate.
Yes.
And I think that, but there's structure's good. You got to have structure. You've got to have leadership, and you got to have ways of doing things. Um, but the leadership today. I'm talking about leadership for a second, but leadership today that's going to resonate with people, especially the millennial generation, is going to be a little different. It's going to be showing respect to people and asking for their ideas. It's going to be showing respect to people, and the way you do that is by trusting them versus worrying that they might not do something, so we have to put controls in place. Instead, people rise to the level of trust we give them. If you want trustworthy people, show that you trust them first. And so it's interesting. It's kind of like in e-learning, you take it down to that. Well, there's going to be boundaries on it. You can't do anything, but why not set it up to where it's interactive and you cut down on it? The temptation is to put so much information, but okay, they need to know all of these things. Well, what are you sacrificing by making sure they know all of these things? I'm willing to bet, because too much information gets put into a lot of curriculums, that less is actually consumed, less is actually retained. And so the question would be, what do they for sure need to grasp, and then what can they experience to fully grasp that concept? And I'd rather have them do that in a lesson than have a whole bunch of written text. I'd rather have a 5-minute video, a little bit of text, an infographic, maybe an online journal so it's reflective, and then give them a challenge. Okay, so you just learned this about leadership. Now in the next 3 days, I want you to go and live that out and analyze yourself in any leadership situations, this word or this, how you did, and then come back to the next lesson, and why don't you report on it? And then they come to the next lesson, and there's a video saying, hey, how did it go? How did that challenge go? And I would rather do that than just give a bunch of information. There's plenty of information in this world. There's access to information everywhere. But what's missing is high quality content in experiences where we get to live it out and truly implement it in our lives, and where it's put together in a way that we actually enjoy.
So in a lot of ways, what I hear you talking about is you're talking about developing content and distribution channels that are engaging people in multi-sensory behaviors or multi-facets. Some people are tactile, some people are audio, some people are visual. We all have these different things, and that's really, you're talking about a movement away from us sitting here and me lecturing to a full lifestyle engagement. Is that right, Isaac?
No, you're exactly right. And you think about who are the people, how are people wired that love to write and love to give information? Well, they're usually not wired in the same way as a lot of other people, a lot of other learners. So you got to adapt it to the learners. So the fallacy is that the people writing the information love to read lots of information and are okay with that, but a lot of learners out there are very different, that they want short sound bites. I mean, the average YouTube video is 4 minutes or less. So we're in a YouTube world now, and we just cannot give too much. I'd rather, it reminds me of this. It reminds me when my daughter was young and she wouldn't eat anything, and it's my first kid, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I just take business practices to raising my first child, and she won't eat anything, and we're putting food in front of her, So then I got the biggest plate I could possibly find, and I cut the piece of pizza in a very thin slice. I'm talking not even an inch, and I put it in the center of this beautiful white huge plate, and I said, hey, here you go. And she goes, Daddy, I can eat more than that. I go, I don't know. I don't think so. And then she gobbles it up, and then I cut another one, and I cut another one, I cut another one. Before long, she's ate way more than I ever tried to give her in the first place. And I think that's the same with content. We have to, if you want retention, if you want people to actually consume your information, you have to give them the best stuff in a way they're willing to consume it, and get them asking for more because they're hungry for more, versus giving too much up front in a kind of old style format. and they don't end up finishing it.
Isaac, that's really intriguing. Some of the content that we've been working for to develop in the magazine, and I know you've been part of that process, one of the things that has really come out, and I think to millennials this is something that's just very inherent to us, we want to bring our whole self into an organization. We want to bring who we are, and so though I might work in sales, or I might work in membership engagement, or I might work in whatever the entity in an organization, I've got a whole lot else that is me that I want to bring with me. What are you guys looking at when you're talking about trying to help organizations develop content and allow content to be consumed by their members when it comes to this? The idea that they might not just be domain specific.
So what's the question again? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I think I'm getting an echo back. Let me see here.
What's the question again?
The question is, when we're talking about organizations, and we're talking about millennials in particular, how do we work with organizations to say, yes, millennials want to bring more than just the domain that they're working with to your organization. So in order to help them, you can apply these things, you can do these things with learning to help move them.
I think feedback. I mean, they need feedback. It's very, very important. Everybody does. That's what's funny. But I think that this millennial generation kind of demands it. They're not going to be in an organization just because they got a cool title and they're making money. They're going to be in an organization because they love the culture and they love what it stands for, and they love being part of something bigger than themselves. And they're going to walk in the moment they feel hypocrisy, or if they feel a lack of integrity, or if they feel just goes against what their morals are and those kinds of things. Or if, on a whole other side of things, they're going to walk if they're not feeling like they're heard. That's another thing. They need to be a way in the organization and through learning to give feedback and to contribute, because they are problem solvers. They really want to solve problems. They want to be part of the process. They don't want to just be in a cubicle somewhere and have no hope for how things can change for them. I don't think anybody's ever wanted that, frankly. But you know what? This generation demands it. They and rightfully so. They care about their life today and tomorrow, but they are not willing to sacrifice today for tomorrow.
That's a great point. If you were to summarize, what effect do you see that e-learning has on people and organizations?
I think it creates a learning organization. It says something about the top of the organization when they're willing to invest and they're willing to create access to information that is going to improve the lives and improve the work that they're actually doing. I think it's incredible, and these millennials are constantly learning. They're taking courses on lynda.com. They're the podcasting it all the time. I mean, they're in tune. If they don't know something, they're probably going to figure it out from Google faster than they'll ask their supervisor. And so it's you just got to realize that these people are on fire to learn, and when you give them learning, when you give them information that's curated well, you're going to retain them. Not only are they going to be excited to show up to work, but they're going to feel like, you get me. Wow, we're building this organization together. You're investing in me, and therefore I'm going to invest in you and your organization. I think it's huge. Commitment. That's
great. We live in a time where, as you talked about, knowledge is growing so quickly. The body of knowledge has expanded. It's just multiplying in such a quick time. How do we keep up with it? What do we need to do as individuals and organizations to be able to just maintain?
So I think that it comes down to leadership. It comes down to, are you creating a culture of learning? Are you creating a culture of sharing ideas? Or are you killing that and you don't even realize it? Just think about the last time somebody gave you an idea. How did you respond to that? What was your facial expression? How did they walk away from you, and how did they feel? Because if they didn't feel great about it, if they felt just like you listened because you have to, and you said a nice thank you in a fake way, then, or if they can tell that you've heard it so many times, then it's not about that moment and that idea. It's about what you're killing. You're killing the spirit of your people inside them to actually contribute to the organization, and subconsciously it's being killed all the time in organizations. And it's really sad, because the good of an organization is really the quality of the people in the organization. And then I would add to that, then I would say it's the quality of the leadership that allow those people to actually express their gifts, their callings, their ideas, the innovation in their mind. And so if you're going to create innovation in an organization, it's not going to be perfect. People are going to come up with things. There's going to be, you might even feel sometimes there's a lack of productivity in areas where, in meetings where people are sharing ideas. But if you snuff that out just for the sake of that one meeting's improved productivity, what else might you be snuffing out? You might be snuffing out the genius of your company, the genius of your organization. And you think of nonprofits, there's some big challenges. Like, you've got to self-fund in a lot of ways. It's not like the old days where you can just rely on donations to thrive. I mean, it's changing, and if you don't have the minds of your people learning and growing and sharing and contributing and innovating with you, then let's face it, the organizations won't exist. It used to be cool. It used to be like a good idea to do that. Now I believe it's necessary to do that. It's necessary to listen to the front lines of your organization and include them in everything that's happening.
It's funny, Isaac, because one of the things you've touched on, and I've heard it in your statements a couple of times already, is this idea of leadership here. And we have a gentleman that's part of our audience who, in some of our Twitter chat conversations, our nonprofit chat, he always comes back to it. He says, "You did it again. This is about leadership." And it's so funny, because really, so much of everything that we talk about comes back to leadership. It comes back to the idea of what kind of culture are we setting? What kind of environment are we cultivating in our organizations for people to be able to thrive? And I think ultimately, when we're talking about learning in the e-learning environment, as you said, it really comes down to what kind of tone is being set by leaders.
It really is. And what a powerful tone when you say, we're investing in you and we're going to be a learning organization. It's one thing to say something, hey, we're going to be a learning organization. Let's invest in ourselves. What's your personal growth plan? I even said that to our team recently. What's your personal development plan this year? But what I can also say is we consume e-learning. We consume. We are going through a book with our leadership team, and we're doing that. And I'm sure a lot of people listening are doing that too. But remember, people are always wondering about their leaders. How am I doing, and what do they think of me? And if you have those pressures on people, you have to proactively release people to contribute in the way they're designed to. They don't naturally do that because there's some fear that can be there. But if you're proactive as a leader, I know I'm talking about leadership again, but if you're proactive as a leader to encourage people to share, to contribute, to share their gifts, and to not be isolated, you don't want to be like Henry Ford, which said something like, I want your work, I want your labor, but I don't want your mind. You don't ever want to be like that, and sometimes we're subconsciously doing that, and I think Henry Ford's great, so I'm not dissing him, but he did say something like that. And really what we want to be is, I want you. I want your mind. And that's what matters first and foremost. Because if we pay attention to that, if we encourage that, you won't believe how productive people become when they're in a place where they feel like there's no hierarchical structure that's, preventing them from being themselves and exerting their contributions to solving problems that make the whole organization better. I just think it's massive, and it all stems from there. And when you create a learning culture because you're actually providing resources, it changes the game.
Isaac, this is so amazing to me, because I'm thinking back to some books that I read previously about talking about the importance of leadership and building a learning environment or a learning culture. And what I'm almost getting from you here is the importance of using the learnings from the e-learning format and how that's reshaping our modern organization. I think we just came up with a book right here on air.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You got to write it, Todd. It's got
I,
to got to get
well,
the news out there.
we'll sit down and pen that out together sometime in the future. Kind of focusing back here on e-learning, and obviously as we talk about, there's so much with learning and culture that ultimately comes back to leadership. But I want our people to focus specifically here on the e-learning format and what that looks like. One of the biggest challenges people face is retention.
Yeah.
What does Choose Growth do to deal with that retention issue of people dropping out or people losing focus? What are you guys working on with that?
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. I mean, that's what higher education's dealing with. They are in trouble in a lot of ways because they have to use e-learning, but when they do, they're getting very poor retention. It's like 10 to 30% a lot of times of people that finish an online course, and it's got to be done different. The first thing is how people learn from a book, how they learn from a live event or from consulting is very, very different than how they're going to learn from online learning. So we just got to, whatever you're used to and whatever you've done before, you've got to kind of put that over here and go, okay, now I need to learn something new to create an experience to retain people. So we have a bunch of innovation rules that when we're building a course to go by, and but some of those are things like a video can never be longer than 5 minutes. Now, can you have multiple videos? Yes. But 10 minutes can't go by without recognizing somebody for doing something. So you got to have a real learning management system. The idea of just taking videos and emailing them out to people and calling it a product is going to be dead soon. It's not yet, and people are making millions doing that, and they're getting the word out. But I'm telling you, people are not. It's one thing to sell something. It's one thing to make something and have people log in. It's a whole nother thing to have people actually finish and consume and implement a learning experience from you, and that's the only way to actually have impact and impact the world. And so you have to have other things like how are you going to create interaction with your learner? You could do an online journal, you could do quizzes and so forth. And the quizzes aren't just a quiz them like we're in grade school. It's actually fun. It motivates you subconsciously to actually pay attention to the learning because you know there's going to be a quiz afterwards, and who doesn't want to do well? And then you can go into your dashboard and you can see how you're doing. How did I score on these different things? Social community. People want to learn with other learners. In a classroom, you have that, but you don't have it online a lot of times. Well, you can. Technology is there now where you can create interactive communities inside your e-learning. If you don't have that technology, use a Facebook group and invite people to it that are going through the course. There's ways to do it with the technology that exists in very inexpensive ways too. You've got to make it doable to come back to. So part of the problem is they might enjoy the experience, they might be learning, but then they go off and they do something else and they don't know how to get back, or they kind of forget about it. Or they think, wow, I want to do that, but it's going to take me 45 minutes. If that's the fact, if a lesson's 45 minutes and they can't pause and it doesn't remember where they're at, they're probably not going to come back after a while. It's got to be easy. Oh, I have 10 minutes. I can come back and learn something, and then I can finish later with that lesson because it remembers where I'm at. Or you've got to, how about mobile? Let's just talk about mobile for a second. If you're not touching mobile, you're not going to have retention because everybody's on their mobile devices, and less, especially millennials, are on the computer and these kinds of things, okay? So, and if you want to touch the globe, nonprofits, with your information, some company, Africa, other countries, you probably know this, they start with mobile and have never seen a computer. So you've got to be engaged with mobile. So how are you going to deal with that? Well, there's technology out there. We have a technology called conveyyour.com, which is mobile. It's a mobile way to make micro courses and interact and so forth, and we can stitch that into courses we're building to where, for example, you can do positive reinforcement. If after 3 days somebody's not in the lesson, we send an auto text message to them inviting them back with a link, saying, encouraging them to come back. Let's say positive reinforcement. Let's say they go 3 courses in a row, 3 lessons in a row, and you want to say every 3 lessons they finish in a row, I want to send them a text message with a little video from the author saying, you're doing awesome, great job, and here's an extra tip for you. So now, are they motivated? Wow, I just got a text message from the author with a little video. That is so cool. You're speaking their language, and I can click it, go back into the lesson, wherever I'm at.
That's fantastic. Isaac, so if people want to know more about what you guys are doing at Choose Growth, how can they get a hold of you? How can they find you?
Yeah, you can go to choosegrowth.com. You can email me directly at isaac@choosegrowth.com. You can go to conveyyour.com, so it's conveyyour.com. That's the mobile technology, and these are two companies that I co-founded, and we're working together with the main big e-learning projects we're doing, and then touching mobile as well. And I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me on any social at Isaac Tolpin, at Isaac Tolpin. So my name's ISAACTOLPIN. So yeah, there you go.
That's great. I think one of the things that's really interesting about this is I think a lot of organizations know they need to, but they don't know where to start. And so having people like yourself who are very well versed in the field, who understand not only the technology but understand where the e-learning mode is moving, is a really positive thing. Isaac, thank you so much for sharing with us. I know, having gone through e-learning programs in the past, some of the things that you're talking about seem very exciting to me, and so I'm really excited to see more of what's happening with Choose Growth. Folks, check them out, choosegrowth.com. Check out Isaac, and certainly be in contact with him if you'd like to learn more. Again, folks, this is the Nonprofit Exchange. Want to invite you back to join us on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern at #NonprofitChat. We're checking out different modes, just like we're talking about in e-learning. We know we've got to do different things, and so here we are. Also, check out Nonprofit Performance Magazine at SynerVisionLeadership.org. You can see that on the magazine tab, and you can learn more about what's happening. Check out Isaac's article. March 2nd, it drops in Digital Issues. You'll be able to see that as we talk about millennials in the nonprofit world. And finally, I want to remind you, come join the community. As Isaac's mentioned today, there's something about being able to learn in community, to be able to find people that you can collaborate with and that you can learn from. And so that's what we're all about. SynerVision Leadership Foundation, our website is really a community for community builders. So come on in, SynerVisionLeadership.org/register, and join us. I want to thank Isaac Tolpin again, Isaac Tolpin of Choose Growth, our guest. Thank you for being alongside with us on this journey, and have a great day.
Take care.